Hey, hello there. I get requests to show my garden in winter. Matter of fact, the other day I did a quick little Happy New Year message, and several people requested or asked to say, hey, show us your garden, how it looks in winter. And I've never really done that. I mean, I talk all the time about how important I feel it is to select plants that look good year round so you have something that brings you joy any time of year. So rather than talking about it, today I'm going to show you. So we're going to walk through the garden and I'm going to emphasize showing you plants that were selected for their all-season presence, for their ability to add some structure to the garden, the bones, if you will. So, you know, not every part of the garden is show worthy and in this month, and that is just the way it is. That is reality. And so the focus is going to be, you know, you're going to see some of the less attractive bits here and there, and I won't try and hide those from you. I will kind of emphasize, though, the plants that I feel like are looking good right now. For a lot of the plants that we're going to look at today, you're going to see the name pop up in the upper left-hand corner there, right up there. And I'm going to do that for as many plants as I can. It's kind of labor intensive, so I may miss a few, but in general, most of the plants will be identified on screen in addition to me saying the plant name. In addition to that, many of them you will find links down in the description that will link you to additional information about the plant on my website, egardengo.com. In many cases, you'll also find plant combination ideas that'll give you tips and ideas and creative ways to include the plant in your garden and what to plant with it. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look around and I'll show you what I'm seeing. It is a sunny winter day in Portland. So, and I'm in USDA Zone 8B. I garden in the Portland area. And today is just an absolutely glorious day, which is wonderful for being out in the garden, but a little challenging when it comes to, videos. It's going to be kind of glary here and there. So, bear with me. We'll be going through some dark shadows and coming out into bright light, and that's going to affect the filming. So I am in the back garden, and we've seen this at different seasons, and the bones are still there. I'm sure I talked about them in some of the earlier videos, but what I am keying on now are some of my conifers and my evergreen rhododendrons, and the most massive evergreen structure I have in my back garden is this loquat. And recently I spent some time, like last year, I spent some time kind of cleaning up the form of it. So it's looking really good. And I hope that we can make it through this winter without an ice storm. That is what can really wreak a lot of havoc with loquats here in the Portland area. And that is what I had to correct. That crown got broken a couple of years ago. Anyways, too much detail on that, I guess. So what do we have? We have a Schefflera. This is the golden variegated variety. I have it trained against my fence. There's my shadow. Trained against my fence, and it's perfectly hardy in Portland, even though, some winters it takes a little bit of damage, but once spring comes, it's going to really put on new growth. This is a conifer that is a new addition to my garden, and it's going to ultimately be very dominant and prominent in this area and actually provide a division of space between me and my neighbor. I've got a choisya here. This is a choisya with golden foliage, and it's pretty happy here. Another conifer. This is a beautiful blue, very slow growing dwarf conifer. You can kind of see how slowly it's growing. So I think it could be very successful and happy there for quite a while. couple of rhododendrons. We've got ebony pearl with its dark chocolate brown foliage. We've got a rhododendron makinoi. Putting on a lot of buds, so I think I'm going to have a good flower show this year, even though that one was primarily selected for foliage. Little boxwood down here. That is variegated gold foliage and a particular favorite. I haven't cut back my ferns yet. That's something I'll do in a month or so. Come through and cut back my ferns so that they can have a fresh new growth for the year. Another rhododendron coming along. This is an Ilex crenata helleri, a really mature specimen, and a favorite, and kind of just a punctuation mark here in the garden. So I'm pointing out a lot of the evergreen plants, but some plants are selected for either their foliage or flower in winter. We've got an Edgeworthia that isn't, oh boy, see if I can get it to focus on that. It's an Edgeworthia. I'll put an image of what it looks like on the screen, but it'll have butter yellow flowers that are fragrant on bare branch, probably in about a month or so. That's a Stewardia monodelpha. So sometimes plants are chosen for their wintertime structure and their attractive bark, and that's an example of that. Again, ferns, one of my favorite ones. That's Polystichum setiferum. Another fern, another dwarf conifer. This one is very slow growing. That is an old plant. I've had that there, gosh, at least 20 years. So, and it just sits there, and I just love its whorls of foliage. Got a few hellebores in here, so that's a sternii. Another conifer, blue foliage. Big old containers. Let's see what's back here. So here we've got Taxus beanpole. So that's an evergreen, strongly upright conifer. Quite old, pretty mature. And it's another Chamaecyparis by it. And then at its feet, a hellebore and an evergreen grass and an asarum. So that scene there has a lot of evergreen structure and different foliage. And then behind it, we have, it can't be all structure. We still want to have, fun. So we've got flower. This is a witch hazel. This is Helena or Jelena, however you want to say it. And that's one of the, in my experience, one of the smaller witch hazels. I've been able to keep it pretty compact. That plant is also about maybe 20 years old. My Pittosporum, tall and tough, very large specimen for that. And of course the neighboring conifer, that Doug fir, that's on my neighbor's property, and a bit of a love-hate relationship with it. Love the stature, hate the mess. But it's a great plant for habitat and all that. Really shady underneath here, so there's some evergreen plants that will tolerate that. I've got Virginia, Rodeo, I might be Rhodia, I'm not sure if I've got that name pronounced correctly. Some cyclamen, that iris, that's Iris fetidissima variegata. But look at this, I love that. So that is a cyclamen heterofolium and a ginger. Those are cool. And that is full dry shade back there. And the classic dry shade plant is Aucuba. Oops, boy, that's very glaring. Let me see if I can get that. Let's see. Aucuba, that particular one has some variegated foliage. And back there, plant that will take the toughest that you can throw at it. That is Aspidistra. Evergreen, strappy foliage, and we'll take the driest, darkest spot that you've got. Ferns, ferns, ferns. Love my ferns. Let's see, what else? Back here, another Aucuba. That is with a rather bright variegation. And then up we've got a conifer that is finely textured blue. And then this one doesn't look like much now, but it's relatively slow growing, and one that I dearly love for its new growth. So stay tuned or look at the link on that one, because it has just its new foliage is like flowers almost. It's very golden yellow. That won't happen for another 6 weeks or so. Schefflera delavei, Mahonia, soft caress. Again, ferns, ferns. Look at that glowing bark of the Stewartia monadelpha. Against the studio there is a Schefflera. That's Taiwanese. And some large rhododendrons in containers. So just panning. This is the back garden, how it looks right now. January, what are we on? I think 17th or so, maybe 18th. This is the view that I see outside of my studio. It's dark back here, very shady. So while, we are getting a shaft of sun through that middle section, it's my darkest, shadiest spot in winter back here. More conifers right there. There's a Corylopsis that's going to be a feature here very soon. And there we are. That's the view as seen out our back door from the main part of our house. And there's the studio. So that's the back garden. I'll shoot another section showing the side and the front. Stepping out the studio doors, I am greeted by this Fatsia Camouflage. It's a favorite, and love that one. It's a very important part of the structure here in this patio dining area. And we're gonna pan here and just show you. I have Daphne right by my door, so that's going to be blooming soon in white and be very, very fragrant. But let's go down the very narrow side yard garden and see what we see. Got another Schefflera. These plants here are kind of poised right here so that I can put them under cover if needed. I grow my phormiums in big containers so that I can use them out in the garden, but also easily protect them from winter damage. So I've got this little utility room here, and that's where I'll often put some of my tender plants in the coldest days of the year. Got a Camellia. That was a fall blooming Camellia. It's already kind of done its thing, but I've got it espaliered against the fence there. And this guy's becoming a bit of a monster, and I'm going to figure out what to do with it. I'll probably prune it pretty dramatically this year and see if I can kind of control its size. So anywho, what we have here is another rhododendron. Love this one. That's Rhododendron Edgeworthii, and I love its foliage. Very crinkly, very handsome on the backside. Last fall, I took out a clematis that was here that just, I don't know, it was too big for the space, and also just didn't flower very well where it was. And so I'm going to do another Fatsia there. And so that's going to be an evergreen screen that goes up that side. As I said, this is an extremely narrow garden space. Used to be, once upon a time, my driveway, so that's how narrow it is, about 9 to 10 feet. And I've got some very small, slow-growing rhododendrons, another of those boxwoods that I showed you before. Conifer with blue foliage, strongly upright Eucryphia for, kind of privacy and division of space between me and my neighbor. A younger Camellia, it's going to be trained against the fence as well. Kind of a vivid pink flowering, still kind of sporadically flowering. And in summer, this is very different, of course. I've got a rose that's trained against that fence. This is Itea ilicifolia, evergreen plant. Perfectly handsome right now. Great division of space and creates privacy, but is especially great when it is blooming in summer. Do a lot of containers here. And just really what I'm focusing on here are the evergreen plants that are providing, a division of space and some privacy between me and my neighbor to the south. So I've got another camellia. Probably along the fence I've got 3 camellias. And so this one is taking up this whole section, trained against the fence. Down low I've got, ferns and dwarf conifers. This is a little Cryptomeria. Another Chamaecyparis, more ferns. And yeah, we'll call that good for here. There's other things I can point out, but those are the highlights in terms of what the evergreen structure is on the side yard garden. If you'd like to see this garden in its peak, there are videos on the channel that really show it when it's doing its thing. So it's one of my favorite parts of the garden and changes a lot throughout the year. Now let's head out front and see what. So this is the front yard garden. And I'm just leaving the backyard here. And this part of the garden, or parts of this part of the garden, have been here for quite some time. So this is a boxwood that I trimmed to a nice, neat, round, structured ball. It's white variegation. A very dwarf, slow-growing rhododendron. And the butylon. This is one of my favorite oak leaf hydrangeas. Believe it or not, it's the one with golden foliage, but it's hanging on to its fall color right now. So as the season progresses and that starts to come out of dormancy, the new foliage will push that fall blooming foliage off, and then this will be like bright yellow, just wonderful. Mahonia gracillipi, really handsome foliage. The backside of that foliage is kind of a bright white. Hummingbirds love it, which is great. That's my kitchen window right there, so I get to kind of watch the hummers come and enjoy it. A Fatsia spider's web, rhododendrons, dwarf conifers, camellias selected for real compact form. So that's that one's called Purple Haze. Should be able to stay there for quite a while. But most prominent and dominant here is the Mahonia gracillipi. That's a Cryptomeria, dwarf conifer. It's been there a long, long time. And Cryptomerias as a conifer group do take to pruning. And so I definitely have to prune this one to kind of keep it in check for that location because it can crowd the path. Definitely want to point this guy out. This is a very, very early blooming evergreen shrub. And actually, I feel like it's a lot earlier this year than years prior. Very dwarf, very slow. I'm going to put the name up there because it's a little hard to find, but if you can find it, it is a wonderful Pacific Northwest native selection. Kind of cousin to a rhododendron, but it's a Camellia, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's fantastic. Lower petalum, kind of just dominating and creating a full stop to that part of the garden. Lots of plants in containers through here. We'll come and maybe look at those, but these are my plants in waiting, my ladies in waiting, if you will. There's a Schefflera, a fantastic Edgeworthia, the one with the red flowers. This is Cedrus Deodora, divinely blue, and I've pruned on that a bit. It's getting to be pretty old, and so I prune on it, and I'll keep it there for a while more. It's kind of a Dr. Seussy looking thing. Magnolia. That is another Fatsia right there, growing along the side, the railing of the front entry. Yucca, little bright spot, and also some, excellent structure. Another Eucryphia. This is a duplicate of the one that I showed you in the side yard, but this one is the older of the two, and you can see it's just strongly upright, white variegation, kind of an evergreen punctuation mark, and it's got Cedrus Deodora feeling blue at its feet. Those two have been in the garden for quite a while, so those are quite mature. Another Chamaecyparis with blue foliage. That's iceberg, Chamaecyparis pisifera iceberg. A rhododendron. Another blue foliaged conifer. This is Picea pungens Montgomery. Quite slow growing. And so it's also been there for quite a while, which is great. You notice there's a theme. If I have a conifer, I really am looking for slow growing dwarf conifer for my small garden. Here's another fern. This is another Polystichum setiferum. And again, this is something that'll be cut back in about 4 to 6 weeks. This is Pieris Little Heath, evergreen shrub, pretty mature specimen, and does just such a great job of all-season interest. The flower buds here, I think, are quite attractive. They open to, the buds are kind of pinky, salmon pink, but then it opens up to white blooms. That's a crepe myrtle, selected as much for its beautiful bark as its summertime flowers. That's crepe myrtle zuni, so that's Lagerstromia zuni. Another conifer there, Tsuga canadensis moonfrost. On the corner is Cephalotaxis fastigiata. So you can see it's pretty mature specimen, upright, columnar shape, really kind of marks and holds that corner. Rhododendron williamsianum, pink blooms, rather early in the year. Another Fatsia japonica spider's web. A really unusual Pieris, not one that you see very often, but that is a Pieris next to a Kaluna, so a little heather. And then let's just back into this corner and show you again. So I'm in the very front far corner. Got a fantastic rhododendron here. Rhododendron yak pack with fantastic indumentum on that underside. There's actually a video of this section here, kind of really detailing all the plants that I'll link to. I walked through this section last summer and talked you through in detail the plants here. Another super dwarf conifer that's been there for a long time. Very slow growing. Sciadopitys Camellia. Fantastic 4-season tree. Love its beautiful exfoliating bark. Got a Daphne here. Very fragrant. Really starting to open its buds. This one was a bit slow to establish for me. When I first put it in, I think we had a harsh winter and it really just got knocked back. But it looks like it's going to really take off from here and do well for me. Heading down the front walk, let's take a little closer look at this Fats hedera. I love this one, and I haven't pruned it yet. It's pretty vigorous for me. But it's just grows along my front railing and is a favorite. On the front slope, another dwarf conifer, a newly planted Ilex crenata Mariesii. And I think it's possible I misspoke in the back and called that Ilex back there Helleri, and it's not Helleri. It's the same as this one, Ilex crenata Mariesii. And this is what it looks like young. And that one back there has been in the garden about 20 years. This one I planted. I grew it on in a container for a little while, and then just planted it in the ground last fall. This is a repeat of one that you saw in the back as well. It's that Choisya gold fingers. So Choisya with golden, finely textured foliage. I've gotten out and did a little bit of cutting back of foliage around some of my hellebores so that they're able to be displayed. So that's Ice and Roses white, I believe. Euphorbia, another conifer there, and we're on the low side of what the garden that we're looking at, the other side of the garden that we talked through just a few minutes ago, and so some of these plants are, repeats of what I already identified. So that's the Cephalotaxis and the Tsuga canadensis moonfrost and the Pieris, but they're flanked on this side by more evergreens. A variegated hellebore, Sternii. This is a youngster that I hope this is its year to kind of really get rolling. And that's a Picea pungens. I think it's prostrata. Anyways, it's going to be a ground flowing, ground hugging blue conifer. And again, just mentioning it's been really mild, and so some things that look super present, they're not always there this time of year. Like this is a salvia, and many winters that would already be, killed back to the ground. We're just having a super mild winter. So I'm on the north side of my property and kind of looking and panning from the parking strip to the front garden. In the parking strip, there's a lot of things in transition, some things that have been around a long time. So I've got the yuccas, but this is a new addition. That's an Arctostaphylos. It's ultimately going to kind of own this corner. That's Austin Griffith. So it's going to be a real tree-like form down here and be super tough, very drought tolerant, selected for its evergreen foliage, its wintertime flowers, and dark cinnamon chocolate brown stems. The yuccas just kind of glow in these sunny winter days. I got a callistemon and the phlomis. Those are look pretty good in winter. I've added about 3 different phlomis in here, and this is the year they're really kind of starting to bulk up. Got a cistus here, a Bupleurum fruticosum, which I've already done some of the initial pruning. I like to keep these pretty compact, and so if you look real closely, you can see that I've already cut this one back a little bit this year. Esperalo, that's a red yucca. One of those phlomis that we talked about. Really like this one, it's Phlomis aurea. Just looks so fresh and bright, and I love it with that conifer. That conifer is getting a little big for the space, so I'm kind of puzzling about what to do. Might try and do some pruning on it this year. We'll see. That's Chamaecyparis Somerset. And let's see, panning here, the other side of the parking strip. Little gray foliaged perennial. Kind of just glows. Glows. Nice to have those kind of bright spots in the garden this time of year. This is a Pinus coriensis silver ray. Also, I don't know, I would say about 20 years old. Slow growing, but getting to be quite large. This Yucca rostrata is a bit of a puzzler to me. Super slow growing in my garden, but keeps hanging on. And it's strange to me because the one that's growing in my neighbor's just to the south were planted at the same time, but those are like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 feet tall now, and then mine is just sitting around. I find it super strange. So we won't be walking through this garden today. We'll do that in a different video, but as a reminder, I garden here to this street side garden to the south is also one that I tend. And we're just about have made a full circle around. I guess we haven't really looked at the front side of this garden. There's that Cedrus, Theodora, Divinely Blue. We've got, you know, another Hesperalo here, an agave, and some plants in here that are certainly fooling us right now. They're showing as evergreen, but they won't always be that way. This has just been an exceptionally mild winter. So we've got penstemon, alstroemeria, things like that. And another one of those boxwood, backed by that Fats hedera. So that's an idea of the things that I see in terms of my winter garden. Hey, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this walk through the winter garden. It was certainly a nice day to do it, and not every day is this beautiful in Portland, but we take them where we can get them. And our January thus far, we've had some really mild days. Just a reminder, anything can happen from here. We are not out of winter. We're going to get more rain. We're going to get those cold days, but there's nothing wrong with getting out and taking advantage of these beautiful days, and also to just get out and enjoy your garden, but also maybe look for some inspiration on plants that you could consider adding to your garden to bring you more joy in these off-season months. So if you like this type of content, please stick around, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.